You don't need anyone to tell you what to do. Take control, take charge, and start making one step after another. And you'll feel so confident. And anyway, diets just wreck your confidence. They make you feel like a failure. You're not the failure. Diets are the failure.
Today on the podcast, we have Camille Martin. I think you guys are really going to enjoy the conversation we had with Camille. She's a registered dietitian, a public health writer, and a former chronic dieter herself. She has really dedicated her life to helping women quit dieting. And our conversation centered around tons of important aspects. And I really especially loved that she's going to hit our Southern audience. She is from Georgia originally. And I think you guys are really going to love the conversation that we had. She's the owner of Love to Lose. And I hope you guys enjoy it.
Hi, guys, and welcome back to the Thick Thighs Save Lives podcast. I'm Kelsey.
I'm Rachel.
And we have a special guest on with us today that we're super excited for you guys to hear her story and how she has, started working with tons of women, ton of people to kind of dismantle some dieting industry. And we just love that. So Camille, welcome.
Thank y'all so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, God, we're so excited to have you and for our ladies to hear from you. So I want to jump right into it and just ask you we know that you've had a tumultuous diet history.
Mm-hmm.
And can you tell us a little bit about that and how it led to your current career helping women?
Yeah, sure. Well, I started dieting when I was about 12 years old, which is like everyone's like, oh my gosh, that is so young. But I did. And just like every other woman in America, but especially back in the early 80s, which is when I was raised, there's all of those messages that you're getting from not just the media, but also I was getting them around my family, my friends in the Southern U.S. culture that I was raised in, which also came with a lot of like, be quiet, be sweet, don't talk unless someone talks to you first. So I was absorbing all of that. And the major message that I got rammed home was what I look like and how I was perceived physically by other people was the most important thing. And that my self-worth became extremely tied to what I looked like. So I never had a weight problem. I was never, overweight or, I was active and just like a normal kid. But for some reason, I latched onto this idea that I needed to have the perfect body and look perfect. So I started dieting, and then that was also coinciding with me training myself to eat emotionally to make myself feel better and just get rid of the pain that I was experiencing, which was a lot of what most people feel growing up, like not fitting in or just feeling lonely and like there's something wrong with you. But I had a lot of other stuff really personally that was going on that was reinforcing all of that. So I was binge eating, dieting to get the weight off, and it was just a negative spiral. And so that continued until my late 20s, almost early 30s, and I developed an eating disorder. I was bulimic. I tried every diet that you could ever even imagine or you could bring up. I did it. And taking diet pills and just crazy stuff. So one day when I was in my early 30s, I was living alone in my little apartment in Atlanta. And I was doing things like, getting up early, drinking diet soda all day, not eating, coming home from work and trying to work out, and just, it was insane. And I was inflicting not just physical abuse on myself, but also mental and emotional abuse. And one day I just literally was in tears and just saying, I cannot do this for another minute. I just can't do it. So I decided right then and there that I was never going to go on another diet. I was just going to get up every day and do what I felt like doing. But I was really afraid that by doing whatever I wanted and eating whatever I wanted to eat, I was going to just, eat everything in sight and gain, 50 pounds. And the opposite happened. When I let go of all of that resistance and when I wasn't being so hard on myself, I was relaxed and I was all of a sudden being conscious and making choices. So to make a long story short, I started wanting to learn about my body and learn about health and nutrition. And so I took a class at the local university after work every night. And I kept going, and I made a whole career switch and became a dietitian. And now here we are.
That is a really beautiful story. I just want to thank you for being so candid and sharing. All of our most favorite and most memorable guests have always come from this backdrop of having a really difficult time with themselves in a certain area, and that leading to wanting to get more education and help other people. And I just feel like that those intentions are so pure that they always yield the best results when it comes to, your clarity and how genuine you come across to, the women you reach is just, you've lived this. And I just thank you for just sharing that.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm happy to share it because just like what you said, all of that pain that I went through and what I've learned from it is totally worthless if I don't use it to help other people. So that is my passion in life, is to get women to understand not just that diets don't work and that what you look like doesn't matter as much as, what you have to offer, but really and truly what's driving this is that I've noticed that women are wasting their time and therefore their lives and therefore their human potential by doing all of this shit. And we've got to put a stop to it. So I'm doing what I can to help make that happen.
I think that's one of the most important things that I love to drive home about just the diet culture and the amount of focus that we're putting on our bodies and how closely it's tied with our self-worth, and genuinely how much time and potential we're wasting thinking about our bodies, what we're consuming, what diet we're going to go on next. The repetitive thought process around all of those things, what we're not thinking about during those times. How many opportunities are you missing thinking about what you look like and
Yeah.
what your body is and what you aren't doing because you're not good enough yet? And it's just one of those. And I wanted to commend you specifically because, like, I know there's an extra layer of being in the South, and having that extra layer and being able to kind of break away from that a little bit into an idea of like, no, every what I'm worth and what I have to say here, and that I'm going to go against the grain and not stay quiet and not just spoke when spoken to. Because there people aren't going around being like, so would you like to untie your worth from your beauty? Like, no one's asking that.
No, well, and it's almost impossible, even though I'm doing everything that I do and I talk about it all day long and I write about it. I still wake up every morning and I look down and I'm like, okay, what do I look like? What did I eat yesterday? And then I just have to stop and go, it's not what this is about. And, it's just it's like a disease, and it's like you'll never fully, I don't think any woman will ever fully be able to get it out of her head. But what I always think about, when Mother Teresa said, if you invite me to a anti-war rally, I won't come, but if you invite me to a pro-peace rally, I will, meaning that you can't eliminate negatives because you're just focusing on it, so you got to replace it with something positive. And to me, that is getting women to set a big goal and then just like forget about, what do I look like? What did I eat? And then get a big goal in your mind. And then when you start working toward that, it's like you just forget about all that. And the beautiful part is that the joy and the energy and the enthusiasm that you feel, it starts to radiate outward and you start making different choices naturally. So I would love to see a revolution of women saying, I'm going to set a big goal. What am I capable of? I don't even know, but I think most women don't even know anymore that they're capable of anything because we feel like such failures after dieting and failing, and we take care of everybody else but ourselves, and we just forgot. I don't think we remember who we truly are. So
That is so insightful. And also, I think a really good reminder that even people who are leaders in the industry that are, helping others with this messaging still stand there and have to push some of that messaging aside, even on a daily basis, and that there is no perfection. And, I think that, it's a really good reminder. And it's also just really grounding to everybody who's working on this and maybe feels like I don't have enough progress yet, or why am I still thinking these intrusive thoughts?
Right.
My goal has always, been like, maybe it's not us, but let's make sure our daughters, don't have these.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
My two daughters, they're going to be mad at me, but they're sitting back here in my living room and they listen to me talk about this constantly. So I'm hoping that it's like rubbing off on them and that they're not going to be as damaged as I was by all of this. I don't know though. They're in the middle of the TikTok world and, the filters and all of that. So maybe it's worse.
Well, we have goals. So
Yeah.
we have goals.
Yeah, that's right. And they're going to have goals. So that's good.
I wanted to talk to you a minute about, why diets don't work. And,
Yeah.
we have stats that back up the fact that, women start and stop diets up to 4 times a year, every year of their life, beginning,
Yeah.
like you said, like in the late teens. And it just keeps getting earlier and earlier. And I just wanted to have your thoughts for a second on why are diets not working? Why are women constantly falling off the ladder, getting on the wagon? And why are we always starting again these unsuccessful plans? Why are they failing us?
Yes, that's such a good question. And I always say the reason why diets don't work is it has nothing to do with individual diets, like low carb, high carb, the whole 30, whatever it is. And I do have to say that some diet programs, like you can learn some positive things from each of them, but the reason why they don't work long term is because they all have the same basic structure. So, what's behind all diets, first of all, is resistance. So, you're making huge changes to every single thing that you do, pretty much, and you're doing it all at once. And then you've got to do it, in 2 weeks, and you got to, go balls to the wall and do all of these changes. That introduces an incredible amount of resistance because you have to use willpower to do it. And eventually you run out of it or have to neutralize all of that stress and resistance you feel. And if you eat emotionally, like I do and did, and if, I suspect that most women who are dieting and have only, the same 10 pounds over and over and over again, what's happening is that it's the way that you're eating that's the issue. It's not what you're eating, So it's like using food to make yourself feel better. So all of that resistance is pushing you like, I'm not allowed to eat this. And then so you cave in a moment of stress because your life is, whatever's going on. And then you feel like you failed because you didn't stick to the diet. Um, and then you fail and you start all over again. But also the resistance that you also feel on a diet is because what you're focused on is what you look like. You're looking at your body and you're saying, I need to get rid of the cellulite on my thighs. I need to get rid of, the stomach that I have from whatever. I need my arms to be more toned. You're literally staring at yourself for however long the diet is going on and picking yourself apart. That creates resistance. That is also, you have to do something to make yourself feel better when you are feeling that state of resistance. Another reason they don't work is because they're one size fits all. So, Kelsea, you might be on a diet, and then Rachel, you could be on the same diet, but y'all live in different places. You have a different family setup, maybe. You might have kids, you might not have kids. And so, you can't put a one size fits all on everybody and expect it to work the same way. And then most of all, you're not learning anything. The way to change what your body looks like is to change the habits that you have, that you engage in consistently. And diets don't let you change habits. It's just a set of instructions and you're following the instructions. And then what happens when you follow the instructions? Maybe you lost weight, but then you go back to doing what you were doing and the weight comes back. But what I want women to get from what I'm saying is that first of all, you have control. You don't need a diet. I promise you, you have the information, you have the power to change your own life, you're bigger than that. You don't need someone to tell you what to do. I'm a dietitian. You don't need me to tell you what to do, honestly. Like, you could go out and learn the same stuff that I've already learned. And I'm not saying dietitians and doctors aren't necessary, but yeah, you don't need anyone to tell you what to do. Take control, take charge, and start making one step after another, and you'll feel so confident. And anyway, diets just wreck your confidence. They make you feel like a failure. You're not the failure, diets are the failure.
Yeah, what a great point. And I do want to echo one of the things you said in there, that when you are dieting and you're it's based on what you look like, and constantly you're checking in and pulling apart those pieces of your body. I have said this before, but my life changed when I stopped looking at fitness, when I stopped looking at the food that I was consuming as a means to get pieces of my body away or smaller or change at all. Like, even change for a positive. As soon as I stopped looking at it as a means to have toner arms or get a six pack or anything, so that when people commented about the physical changes that were happening with my body, I was almost surprised, because it became just like not important. And honestly, like, my life changed when I like took that sidestep from like, well, I'm just going to see, from a performance standpoint, like what my body can do, like how much weight can I lift, how far can I run, if I can move faster in workouts. Like, it was a mind-blowing moment to like, oh, I am worth so much more than the cellulite on my legs.
Yes, I love that. And yeah, and when your training purpose is not to look better, but it's to see what you're capable of. Yeah, like you said, everything changes.
It opens the doors to like other aspects of your life, to see what am I capable of in this world. Like, it just, once you like get past that initial, because your body is your home, right? So like, if you start there, it translates into everything else that goes on in your life, your relationships, your job, how you interact with the world. If you have your home figured out, you're interacting from a different place. And if you're not interacting from this place of like disappear and hate and loathe and like make this go away, you can interact with the world in a very different way.
So true. Yeah. And I tell people that your body is already perfect underneath. Like, you just need to let it shed itself, the things that you're not liking about what you look like, because you have the perfect body, air quotes, if you're not doing it on video, you have your own perfect body. You don't have to look like a supermodel, but there's nothing wrong with wanting to be fit and toned and like just to be strong and alive and feel amazing in your skin. And that looks different for everybody. But yeah, change starts from within. What you feel like will radiate outward, and your body will change on its own.
In your book, you say it's not about weight. And can you explain what you mean by this, just a little bit clearer for our ladies?
Sure. Weight is a side effect, because if you think about it, it's coming from somewhere. It's coming from your unhealthy use of food, using food to make yourself feel better. But if you take it one layer deeper, where is that desire to use food to make yourself feel better coming from? Well, the first answer is that you trained yourself to do this, and it's not your fault, and there's no shame in it, and you're not a bad person. You have to go back and figure out the moment when you started to connect all these dots with, so for instance, for me, when I was 12 and feeling all of the pain I felt, and I felt very alone and like I, didn't have anyone to talk to, I would take a bunch of food and go in my parents' den and sit and lock the door and just eat to make myself feel better. And it did, until I felt shame for what I had done. But I had to uncover the reasons why, and that was key, because then I could release the shame that I felt about why I kept feeling in my 20s, 30s. Why can't I just stop eating? Why am I having this issue? What's wrong with me? I don't have enough willpower. Well, that's not what it is. You got to go back and figure out why you started doing this in the first place. And then ultimately, that's where the weight is coming from, plus all the resistance we're adding to our lives by trying to beat our bodies into submission and, hating what we look like and feeling like failures. So, weight is a symptom. And I liken this to, if you ever hear, for a money analogy, if you ever hear about people who win the lottery, they play the lottery, they win millions of dollars, and then they lose it all. Well, yeah, that's a side effect of the way you think about money. Like if you give people who are not thinking about money in the right kind of way, the money is just going to go bye bye. So if you're thinking about, um, food, well, okay, so now my analogy is like blowing up. I use it all the time, and now I've forgotten how I wanted to say it. But anyway, weight is showing up. You will lose all your money if you don't start from the inside and change the way that you see money, and the weight will disappear on its own if you change the way that you see yourself and the way that you're using food. Weight will take care of itself. It'll be the side effect will go away on its own. But the problem is, of course, is that we are trying to fix the side effect rather than solve the problem in the first place. If all of that made sense.
No, I think that was really beautifully said, and I also think that it's always when we're talking about our why, and when it comes from a place of hate, it's just not as effective as when it comes from a place of love. And that just goes for anything that you're doing, any goal that you're setting. It just always seems that when you're coming at it for the reasons of love for the thing that you're doing, it's just going to enhance it so much more than trying to hate something away.
Absolutely. Yeah. You got to love yourself first. And we say that it sounds like a cliche, but really and truly loving yourself first and loving where you are right now. Like, not just, oh, I love myself, but like, look at your life right now and look at everything that you've been through and all the pain and the struggling, and just be so grateful. Like, there's so many women who have been through so many tough things, and like divorce or raising kids or being an empty nester or whatever it is. Yeah, you got to love where you are right now. And that includes sometimes a body that is not the way you want to be living in it, but just, look at everything that you do and everything you've experienced sort of as like an objective observer. Like if you saw somebody who'd gone through all these terrible things and say, I understand that. It makes perfect sense. And now I can love who I am today and still continue to become the best version of myself. Yeah.
I also think that when we tie so much importance or even just value in a weight or the weight that we see on a scale, it's the same thing as tying your self-worth to what you look like. You're tying yourself to this number that was at one time something that was desirable and it has nothing to do with your life right now, or was made up by someone who doesn't live in your life or in your body, and it has absolutely no relevance in
Yeah.
this world to anything.
Yeah.
And it just becomes this obsession. And I like to bring this up because I think that we have a podcast about this, we're well versed in this, and even still I don't tie myself to any weight, and even still when I go into the doctor's office and they ask me to step on the scale, I feel anxiety.
Oh
And
my God.
I am someone who feels like you'd think like, oh, she's healed from this whole thing. Like, no. I feel anxiety from it, and I start to go like, can I take off my shoes? Can I take off my jacket? Because my initial thought is, how can I make sure that I am reading at the lightest amount, regardless of what that would look like, what that would feel like, what anything that is actually important to my health. we're
Yeah.
we're tied to this number, and it's this like, it's this buzz in the background no matter what. And if
Mhm.
we can kind of separate ourselves from the numbers, from any ideal that has nothing to do with the life that we're living, we're starting to separate ourselves from my worth being what I look like or a number on the scale.
Absolutely. And I'm laughing because I just went to the orthopedist the other day because I'm having problems with my wrist. And I walked in and they were like, okay, step on the scale. And I said, you're not weighing me. I'm here for my wrist. You do not need to know how much I weigh. And I'm not getting getting on your scale, so back off.
I love that you did that because I had a similar thing, shoulder, and I was like, why are you ruining my day?
Yeah. And not just I don't want to know, but like it does. I don't need to know that. It's because it would my day. Honestly, it would if I'm being honest. If I weigh more than what the 115 that somehow I latched onto a long time ago, like if I could just get down to 115, and I mean I don't still feel that way necessarily, but it's like, yeah, why it's so insane that we are, if I ask people all the time, if you could wave a magic wand, what's the one thing that you would want for yourself? I mean, literally every woman just about says, no one says world peace. Everyone says, if I could just weigh 120, 130, if I could just have the perfect bikini body, then everything, my life would fall into place. And it's just not true. In fact,
spoiler alert, not true.
When I got my marriage sort of just crashed and burned in 2018, and right before that, I was in the best shape of my life, and not because I was happy. I was very unhappy, but I was hyper focused on that and had been for so many years, and like really living healthy, eating right, exercising. And then when my marriage fell apart, I reverted straight back to some of my old crutches, like binge eating, binge drinking. I wasn't exercising. But here's the thing. I knew when I was doing these things, I kept saying, now, Cam, listen, you're doing this to cope, and it's okay. You're going to come out on the other side of it. And I think I gained about 20 pounds. I've probably lost 10 since then, but it was very hard to be 5'2" and to gain 20 pounds. And I did not feel good about the way I looked. But every day since then, I have felt exponentially better about myself as a woman. In fact, I feel like I became a woman through that process and not some stupid little girl who cares about what everybody thinks about her. So there's beauty in evolving. And I sometimes tell people gaining 20 pounds was the best thing that ever happened to me, because I became a woman, even though she carried 20 extra pounds, who was on fire for her life. And now, honestly, the 10 pounds that went away, I'm not trying to get rid of them. I'm like, I have this whole new business. It is literally coming off because of everything I say. Set a goal, get excited, connect with other women. Let's empower each other. And you don't have to try to get 6-pack abs and tone arms and do 5 pull-ups and then, you're perfect, because you're not. I was definitely not perfect on the inside. I can promise you that.
I love that you said that. And I really, I think that it's an important message that everybody can relate to at some point in their life. And I want to use that as a jumping off point to really talk about diet and health, because I think that a lot of people, and sometimes it starts in the doctor's office on the scale of, having this discussion about being on a diet for your health. And I don't want to discount the fact that, a lower body fat percentage for a lot of people can improve certain health markers. But I want to talk about, our diets making us healthier? Like, is the constant desire to lose weight actually healthy?
No, it's not. Because it's not healthy mentally and emotionally. I always have to give a disclaimer. I am never talking about someone with a serious medical issue who losing weight would be the difference between having diabetes or heart disease or cancer even. What I'm talking about is that this constant focus on what we look like, dieting is included in all of that. And it's mentally and emotionally destructive. And so no matter how much weight you could lose on a diet and be physically healthier, you're going to be mentally and psychologically and emotionally unhealthier, which is going to take years off your life, in my opinion. I would rather be 10 pounds, 15, 20 pounds, 30 pounds. What is overweight anyway? We've got BMI. It's arbitrary. We have to have these systems and these classification systems because it helps the medical field. And I'm not bashing that, but we can't live our lives based on, is my BMI 20? It's just this obsession with our physical health at the expense of our mental and emotional well-being. And that is not healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like we look at it, it's so weird because we look at this, whole, dieting mentality, and like we can identify right away, like, is this mentally healthy for me? And a lot of people can identify right at the beginning, like, no, it's not. And then even switching, to the other side of that, we can identify so many diets that are physically harming to your body right off the bat.
Yeah.
Like, the keto flu is a real thing. Like, like that is just normalized, that you say, like, yeah, it feels like you have the flu, and we're still talking about health, because that doesn't feel like we're talking about health at all. That
No.
feels like we're talking about the opposite of health. And that's not even, taking into account like the damage that you are doing to your body by not allowing it to like feel any of the cravings that you're going through, any of the you're at a, when you're talking about from a nutrition standpoint, like, you're not getting nutrient dense foods, but you're on a caloric deficit that has nothing to do with the nutritional value of things. So we have to stay within this caloric deficit, but your body is telling you, I am requiring more nutrients for the level of activity that I'm doing during this day. But we're gonna ignore all of those cues that are coming from our bodies. And then when we decide to honor those, you don't have any willpower. So the
You can't.
whole, the whole back and forth there is absolutely bizarre, in my opinion, because like when we really peel back the layers, and I think you can ask yourself this for anyone who is, the average woman is going on 4 diets a year. 4 diets a year, and we continuously do this cycle, even though we know it doesn't work. But many women, although we know it doesn't work, go like, well, it worked for this time, right? It worked for this 10 pounds, but you're back here in the same spot. So
Yeah.
what are we quantifying working? Like,
Yeah,
what's it?
and I think what's not working is, well, first of all, if you're an athlete and it's critical to your performance to, figure out exactly how many micrograms of selenium that you need to improve your performance by 10 seconds or 2 seconds, that's great. But like what's going on with keto diets and all of these things, it's just about weight loss. And what's behind that is a desperation, which I think is the problem. It's the desperation to just get rid of the weight. I just want to get rid of the weight, and then my life will be better. And it's like we are in this forest bouncing off all these trees, like nutrients, carbs, ketone bodies and all of this stuff, like searching frantically for the right one. And guess
The
what?
right devil.
for, for the exact right diet. And tomorrow there's going to be a new tree over here that's like glowing red, and they're going to be like, oh, run for that tree. You have to walk completely out of this fucked up forest, seriously, and just go, we are all losing our minds. We are hair splitting. And it's like, we don't need to do all of this unless you are a professional athlete. You do not need to know about ketosis. I'm sorry. I am not the normal dietitian, but I just don't like to focus on food because I think there's something very, very different going on behind the scenes. And that's a feeling of desperation, trying to grasping at straws. What is going to work? What's going to help me just get rid of this weight? And that's what the problem is. So,
Yeah, that's a great point. I do want to talk about some environmental factors too, because that obviously plays a massive role in the ability for people to develop healthy habits. So how can we maximize our environmental factors to reach healthy goals without being distracted by all the noise?
yeah, that's such a good question. Well, so your environment is massively influential over everything that you do all day long in good ways and bad ways. But the thing is, most people don't realize it because we're all so used to looking at what's around us that we don't notice the ways that we could improve it to really help us. And the cool thing about your environment is that if you really look at it and you become aware of what's going on, you can set it up so that it helps you make the right decisions. I mean, so little things, and they sound insignificant, but things like if you buy your kids a bag of candy, instead of just leaving it out on the counter, if you put it in a Tupperware container, you open up a cabinet and you put it on a high shelf, and just the 2 extra steps that you have to go to, getting up to reach it, undoing it, it does make a difference. And studies even will back this up. At the same time, if you put a bowl of fruit on your countertop, you are more likely to eat the fruit. So what I tell women is that if I come into your house and just walked through your kitchen, I could point out 5 to 10 things, like right off the bat, that you're doing wrong, that is pushing you to make the wrong food choices. And that's not to criticize anybody. That's just to say, no wonder you're having trouble, eating the right foods, because you've got all of these things that are conspiring against you to make the right choices. And this also goes for what you read and what you watch and listen to and the people that you hang out with. So if you really want it, I call it your secret weapon if you set your environment up the right way, because it's like we're all walking around with this negative, horrible person saying, oh yeah, eat this, eat that, and we're not even noticing that she's there. So set it up the right way and you won't have to use all this willpower to overcome all of that.
I think it's really important too that when we talk about women and their self-esteem surrounding their knowledge of their body, their knowledge of food groups, of nutrition, of what it looks like, I really think that in all of the women I've talked to, one of the most common things that continues to come back is that women feel especially very undereducated on what they're supposed to be eating. And because of the elimination diets and all of the restricted food, this is the bad foods, these are the good foods, now that one just went on the bad list. It changes so much, and it's so directed and focused on the marketing efforts on women specifically. I think that a lot of women are left going, I don't even know what is good food anymore. If I was to say to myself today, I want to clean up my diet and I want to eat good foods that is going to support my nutrition and my healthiest body, I do not know that many women would have a very long list of foods that they felt secure about. So, I just want to hear from you as a nutritionist. Is it as complex as it sounds? Do we really not know anymore what to eat?
Well, that's my favorite question so far, because what's happening is that it's that feeling of that desperate feeling of I don't know. It's putting yourself in a mode of I don't know what to do, but you do. You know better actually than anybody does. And what we're doing right now, there is so much noise. You need to just stop listening to it. I never tell people what to eat. If they ask me all the time, tell me what to eat, give me the diet plan, and I'm like, I will not do that. And here's why. Because number one, it's not that complicated. You already know what to eat. You already know what's healthy, and you know what's not healthy. You know that processed food, high sugar foods, high fructose corn syrup, all of that. We know all of that. If you shop in the produce section, you are A-okay. If you eat whole grains, unless you have a gluten intolerance or sensitivity, this is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people who are just the average, basically healthy person. Turn off the noise and start. What I want people to do is start with a blank slate and just take a breath and go, you know what? I'm just going to figure this out for myself. Get in your kitchen, look up a healthy recipe and something that makes you feel happy. Go to the grocery store, just decide to cook a meal. Just that little childlike investigative attitude of, I can do this, I can figure this out, and taking control. Sure, if you want to split hairs, there are certain foods that, that you could say, well, this one's a little bit better than this one, but let's just let's just all take away the insanity and the bullshit of these messages that, like, you don't know what to eat and I know what to eat. You know who the people are that are telling you, no, 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 this is the right way, are people who are selling you something. They want you to buy their diet. They want you to buy their workout routine. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's like, it's really not that complicated. We've made it complicated, but it's not.
Yeah, that's it's such a great point because that it's one of the most common questions that I get all the time. It's like, well, you're not going to tell me what to eat. Well, what do you eat in a day? And it's like, my body is different than yours. My lifestyle is different. My activity level is different. My needs are different. And like, regardless if we did the same thing every day, we did the same workout routine, we did, you came and slept at my house, we did the exact same thing, the needs of our body would still be different because
Exactly.
I'm living in a different body than you. And I can even say my sister, like, we eat very differently because like our bodies perform differently. I feel better when I'm eating certain things. And honestly, the thing that people don't want to hear when it comes to that is you have to really learn and you have to start to listen to your body, and
Yeah.
it takes some time. It definitely has taken me a ton of time and a ton of unlearning to realize that like I'm a person who eats like a higher fat content than most people have in their diet. And like when I say that, I'm talking like avocados, oils, like things like that. Like I function better on that side than typically like more like a carbohydrate higher percentage of my diet. I know that, and that is definitely not for everyone, but it's something that I've had to learn over the years with listening to cravings, with listening to how much like protein snacks I'm craving during the day, where like it's notorious that like I'm eating chicken out of a bag, but like because I'm like I just can't get enough protein in. It's one of those things, but you really have to learn for yourself and listen to those things, and you can't hear it with all the other noise. You're not going to learn, you're not going to be able to hear it if you're constantly trying to take somebody else's lifestyle and somebody else's diet and force it into your life and think that you're going to listen to yourself.
Well, and guess what? The very moment you decide, I'm going to learn, what you have just done is you have taken charge. And it's a process it's over your lifetime. This whole thing is about your life. It's not about bathing suit season or fitting into a pair of jeans for a birthday party or any of this nonsense. But you're right. Learning is what makes all the difference because you're taking control. This is exactly how I did it. I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm just going to see what happens. And I never cooked for myself. I ate lean cuisines and drank Diet Dr. Pepper for the love of God. And I was bulimic. And then I was like, I'm just going to start cooking. And it was very basic at the beginning. And then I learned more. I started reading books. I wanted to go take a class. Like, what if I took a nutrition class? That would be so much fun. And that's what happened. And that's what led me here. And so we got to let go of this tomorrow, next week, next month, and just breathe. You got this. You can take charge and you can figure it out. Absolutely.
Yeah, I do want to end with, what is one piece of advice that you would give to someone who wants to get off the diet train, like right now? What's one piece of advice you'd give
My,
to them?
my biggest piece of advice is I want you to go sit somewhere quietly for an hour with a journal, not to write about your life, but I want you to sit there and just think, like daydream. What was something that I used to love doing or thought I really wanted to do? And I want you to set a goal, and I want you to back it out into the tiniest baby steps, like 20 baby steps you could think of. And I want you to take that first step today. Because once you start doing that, all of that other noise just fades into the background and it'll never fully go away. But when you start setting a big goal and work on achieving it, your whole life will change and your body will too.
That was a better answer than I could have even hoped
I
for.
was gonna say, oh my God. So
Oh,
good.
I'm glad, but it's the truth. That's exactly what
Well,
works.
that's the ones that hit harder, but like it's way better answer than I could have even anticipated because you know what we're in this space, we're in this, we have a podcast all talking about this, the diet industry, and like the idea is actually to like set a goal for your life, because like your life is happening right now,
Yeah.
and you're spending so much of that time focused on your body and what you can't have, and in restricting your life, that you're missing living it, and you're missing the goals that you could be working towards today. So thank you so much for that answer and the entire thing, because I think this is amazing, and our ladies will love it and they'll want to hear more from you. So can you tell us where they can find you?
Yeah, my website is Camille Martin RD for registered dietitian.com. And you can find all my social media there. I have a book if you're interested. And I have a free guide to setting up your ultimate weight loss kitchen. Speaking of environment, so if you sign up to get on my list, you will get that for free. But email me, to anyone who's listening, email me anytime. I'm happy to answer any questions personally.
I love it, Camille. You are just here for the women, and your story has been just so wonderful. And I just want to thank you for sharing, and thank you for all the wonderful advice today, because I think that it is so valuable. So we appreciate
Thank
you.
you all. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for having me. Y'all are so fun and easy to talk to. Great hosts. And I love what you're doing too. Thank you.